Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. I will also gather all nations, and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel. Whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land.
Germany won the First World War by 1916 without a single shot being fired on German soil. British convoys were blown out of the Atlantic by German subs, the French army mutinied, and the Russian army was defecting. With British Prime Minister Lloyd George up against a wall, Lionel Rothschild and the Jewish Zionists offered the British a deal they couldn't refuse. "We'll bring the United States into the war as your ally and win the war for you," they said, "if you'll promise us Palestine." In April of 1917, President Wilson got the green light and declared war on Germany. Because of overwhelming opposition to the war, Wilson invoked the draft and passed the Espionage Act, forcing Americans to fight or be thrown in jail. Billions of U.S. taxpayers' money was delivered to the British war machine, money that was never repaid. In return, the British government wrote the famous Balfour Declaration and addressed it to none other than Lord Lionel Rothschild. The Declaration promised Palestine and Israel to the Rothschild Zionists.
Whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coasts of Palestine? Because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things, The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians. Behold, I will raise them out of the place whither ye have sold them, and will return your recompense upon your own head. And proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Let the heathen be awakened, and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about.
I thank Almighty God for granting me, once again, the opportunity to address this important international forum. Over the past 4 years, I have spoken about the main challenges facing our world. I have discussed the roots and underlying causes of these challenges and the need for world powers to review their outlook and work out new mechanisms to address the pressing international problems before us. I have talked about the two conflicting outlooks prevailing in our world. One that is based on the predominance of its materialistic interests through spreading inequality and oppression, poverty and deprivation, aggression, occupation, and deception, and tends to bring the entire world under its control and impose its will on other nations. This outlook has produced nothing but frustration, disappointment, and a dark future for the entire humanity. The other outlook is the one that espouses with the belief in the oneness of the Almighty God, follows the teaching of His messengers, respects human dignity, and seeks to build a secure world.
Russia and China are facing a barrage of criticism from some Western and Arab states for their decision to block the latest UN resolution on Syria. Moscow has already dubbed the reaction hysterical, saying the resolution took a biased approach to resolving the civil conflict. RT's Sarah Firth was in Syria when the diplomatic showdown began and now joins us to explain what exactly aren't the two sides seeing eye to eye on. Sarah, take us through it.
Well, the Syrian conflict proved divisive on absolutely every level. Having just spent a number of weeks in the country, we saw a population more polarized than ever. And unfortunately, those divisions we've seen spreading to the international stage. When Russia and China vetoed the UN resolution on Syria, we saw that spark fierce criticism from many in the West.
The United States is disgusted that a couple members of this council continue to prevent us from fulfilling our sole purpose here.
It's when you realize that you see what a mistake Russia is making by backing this regime.
Some influential members of the international community, including those sitting around this table, have, from the very beginning of the Syrian crisis, been undermining opportunities for political settlement by calling for regime change, stirring up the opposition against the authorities, and not hesitating to encourage and feed armed methods of struggle. The draft resolution put to the vote does not adequately reflect the real situation in Syria and sends unbalanced signals to the Syrian sides. It doesn't take into account our proposals that, as well as withdrawing Syrian armed forces from the cities, there should be an end to attacks by armed groups on state institutions and neighborhoods.
Draft resolution was proposed by France with the support of Portugal, the UK, and Germany. But the one part of the text that many countries seem to have disagreed with was that called for Syria to comply with the resolution within 30 days. And if it had not complied, then the Council would, quote, consider its options, including unspecified, quote, measures. Many council members, including China, Russia, Brazil, South Africa, interpreted these vague terms as leaving the door open to sanctions. Now, of course, Russia is one of many countries that has been opposed to international sanctions against Syria. Ambassador Churkin says Moscow believes the violence should be stopped through internal reforms and political dialogue, not external sanctions or military intervention, such as the case of Libya.
The draft resolution which was not passed today was based on an entirely different philosophy, the philosophy of confrontation. We cannot agree with its one-sided accusations against Damascus. We believe the threat of implementing sanctions against the Syrian government is unacceptable. This approach contradicts the principle of a peaceful settlement of the crisis based on a common Syrian national dialogue.
Brazil, India, South Africa, and Lebanon abstained from voting on the resolution, but it was the United States that voiced extreme disappointment that the Security Council did not ultimately adopt the resolution.